Hi, I'm Bill with Lucky Fish Media, and today I just want to talk a little bit about a bad website design for an attorney. So I've created a bad design. I'm going to walk through it to make sure that your website doesn't have some of these features, and if it does, you can go ahead and change it. So I've been helping attorneys and law firms grow and get found on Google for the past 15 plus years. And one of the biggest things is website design that I do, and making sure that your website is the central hub of your marketing. So you definitely want it to look professional, show your experience, make sure there's as little friction as possible so people can contact you, make sure that your history, all that shines through. So I created like this fake website, and we're going to kind of walk through a little bit and just talk about some of the things that if this was me, I would change. So right off the bat, the color scheme is just very, nothing catches your eye. It's just a very generic blue to light blue and light gray. And so you really want to have sections stand out, call attention, and make sure that the user is finding the information they need to find out. So that's first step overall. The second thing here is the phone number is tucked up way in the right hand corner, and it's very small, at least on what would be a desktop version. I don't know if somebody created a mobile of this. Obviously you want the mobile, the phone number at the very top, easily clickable. Make sure if you offer a free consultation, something like that. But with the desktop version, this is really small, and again, it doesn't say if they offer a free consultation. It does down here, but it has an asterisk, and so if this again was a real site, you definitely want to remove that asterisk, because people are like, I'm not going to bother calling because I don't know if the consultation is actually free or what that means. So the other thing is, looking at this on the desktop version, the main menu is slid over to the left. So it just looks like there's all this open space here, and the writing is way too small. And kind of overall, the writing on this would be way too small. And it's funny because the older I get, when I was younger, I would make letters, words, and fonts pretty small because I had no trouble seeing them. And now that I'm much older, closing in on 50, I realize the importance of, like, most people need larger writing, and it's okay to have larger writing, larger fonts. So making sure that your user doesn't have any friction is important, and small writing they can't read is definitely a big friction problem. So in this situation, I would make sure that these were larger and more centered, and probably it would draw more focus. Because as people read, they read left to right, so they're going to see your logo, then they would go straight to your menu and down to this section, which we call the hero section. So this is bad for a couple reasons. One, it's bad for SEO. There's nothing in here talking about your main practice areas or where you're located, things of that nature. It just says experience legal representation, which is just super generic. And then it welcomes people to Smith & Carter Law, which nobody welcomes people anymore. It's kind of just doesn't work that way. This is valuable real estate, and so you're just giving it up by saying welcome. And here where you see full service law, you really want to make sure that your practice areas are listed here. So for instance, if we were coming down here to practice areas, you would say something with family law, criminal defense, divorce, things of that nature. You'd want the main practice areas listed here. And where it says, like, our attorneys are here to help you, I would make sure that call to action and these buttons were a little bit more, they would call out a little bit more, maybe a different color. Also, when it's like, of course your attorneys are there to help you, but maybe having use some of the space up here for more language to get your practice areas in there for SEO, and then making sure that you stand out as like why they should call you. Under here, the fake design has their experience, which is fine. Thousands cases handled, like, that's okay, I guess. But really, is it like the people are looking for help? They want to know you have experience, but is it really the cases they need? Multiple office locations, again, really, I've never seen anybody. They just care about their area. They're not caring about other locations. So having multiple locations here, again, you're just taking up valuable real estate at the top with nothing really coming off the screen for the user to want to contact you. And then the free consultation with the asterisk is a big no-no here. So this, I would definitely change this to be more user-focused, or maybe even bump it down. The things people want to know right away is like your practice areas. Are you in their area? and then your Google reviews. So you can see on here there's like no Google reviews, which they would have to. I would highly recommend. Again, this is a fake design, but you having your Google reviews towards the top. So you have your experience, legal representation, that hero section that would need to change to make sure that you're hitting your SEO marks with listing your practice areas. Then as you come down, you have about the firm, which is good. I wouldn't call it about the firm. Again, this is valuable real estate, so you want something SEO wise. So if it was like in the Lansing or Detroit area, say, Redford criminal defense attorney, blah blah blah, something like that. It has a location, has your main focus area, main practice areas. Here there's just way too little language. Again, it's a valuable real estate towards the top, so I would make sure that you would have at least a solid paragraph or two to make sure that Google has something to latch on to with your SEO. And then again, this is like empty photos are a big no-no, or just placeholders. Like, you definitely don't want that, which I don't see very often, but I just put that in here for reference. It could be even a photo that really doesn't speak to what's going on, really super generic, which you don't want that. So scrolling down here where it says our practice areas, these practice areas are all over the map, but for the purpose of the fake design, I wouldn't have, this is way too many practice areas. I would try to keep it to 3 and focused. You certainly can list other practice areas down below, but you really want to make sure, like if you're doing family and criminal defense, those are your primaries. I wouldn't put business law here, real estate, personal injury. Like, it's just way too overwhelming for people coming to your site. So you want to make sure you're funneling them down into your system. So having too many practice areas, it's just too much. Plus there's no images, there's no buttons, there's nothing to really call out this section. I would have this section, I would have the background be a different color to make sure that this section really stands out, because this is where people are going to go from to visit those pages. And like here where it says we handle many types of legal matters, again, that's like super generic and very small. So you'd want to make sure that you had language that included your main practice areas, because again, for SEO purposes, Google really wants to see that you don't want to be generic at all. Again, here where it has one attorney profile with like one line and no photo, that is, again, like, I wouldn't have this section on unless you have multiple attorneys on here, but you definitely want to have a photo and talk about their experiences in the community, things of that nature. Just having this little blurb just isn't enough. Over recent news here, it's very outdated. You can see here 2021, 2022. So if you're going to have a recent news section on your website, make sure it's updated. You don't need to have like stuff every day or every week, but it definitely should have something from this year. So being 2026, you'd want something from this year, top 2 or 3 things. And really, like, recent news, like our office is closed for Thanksgiving. It's like, yeah, everybody's closed for Thanksgiving. So it's not really like a post. You don't need a post about it, but for the purposes of this fake website, like if you were to have recent news or recent articles, you'd want like something about family law, some aspect of it, some aspect of criminal defense. Again, you're just fighting the generic. Like, don't be generic with your terms. Don't be generic with like, I'm a lawyer and I do law. Like, okay, so does a million other people. Like, so you really want to make sure that you're standing out, not just in terms of design, but in terms of SEO and in terms of making sure the user experience is good. So going down to the very bottom here, contact reference, this is off, the form is like, all this is off center, so it doesn't look quite right. So if you're going to have this centered, you'd want the form centered and so on and so forth. Here I would definitely have links to your Google profile, maybe even an image of your Google map to make sure that people can see your location. Also, again, this page is lacking Google reviews, so you definitely want even maybe another quick review down there. I wouldn't have multiple phone numbers, just one way to reach them, and I definitely wouldn't put you have a link here for an email, but then you also have a contact form, which creates a nightmare for cases that are coming in. So when you have cases coming in, you want to make sure it's through the same funnel, so that way anybody who's contacting you is contacting you through your form, so people know where to look. You don't want to have somebody fall through the cracks because they decided to send an email and the person was on vacation for a couple of days and didn't see the email. If they would have done the form goes to a different office manager who wasn't on vacation, and she could have seen it. So you definitely want to make sure that it's either the form or email. Like, don't give too many options. And I think that's part of the problem, is everybody wants to give a million different options, and that's great, but you have a system in place, and that's how you want people to come in. It's easier to go through those forms and make sure nothing is getting missed, because you really don't want that. And then speaking about this form, like, nothing is required here, so you want to make sure that when people do fill out the form, that they're filling out the information, not just their name and email, something like that. You want them to make sure they have to do describe their legal matter, so you have already kind of been able to look at them and see if it's worth, like in this case, going to be worth your time. Just kind of get a brief idea. If they don't fill out that section, then you don't know, and then someone from your office has to call them and figure out if this is a legit case. So just making sure there's a few hoops to jump over, a few barriers to jump over would be smart here. And again, there's no security on this form either. We will respond within 2 to 3 business days. That is absolutely unacceptable. As you know, people need legal help. They need it now. 2 to 3 days, especially like over a weekend or something, is just not worth it. People will not contact you. They're going to contact somebody who they can talk to right away. And this footer area, it does a good job of listing the practice areas, but again, I would get rid of all these links. I would have, if you're going to have like blog posts or something like that, that's great. The disclaimer is good too, but I would put more information on here regarding your Google profile, maybe a few links to some additional hyper-focused geographic locations. If you're serving like a 3-town grouping or something like that, you can have that information there. So, but this is just, like I said, I created this as just kind of like a bad thing not to do. So we went over the design. Obviously, this stuff is super generic, this hero section. You'd want to make sure that stood out a little bit better. You want to go through and make sure that everything is, it stands out. Like when someone comes there, they're like, they see your reviews, they see your experience, and it just really pops through the screen to make sure that they are going to reach out to call you. Again, if just having a really generic site like this site would not do good in Google, because there's not enough keywords here to latch onto, and it wouldn't be a good user experience. So hopefully some of the things I've touched on here, you can look at your own website and with a critical eye and say, am I really creating a good user experience here? Is this doing well in SEO? Like, am I ranking locally in the top 10 for the practice areas I should be serving? So hopefully these tips and things I mentioned can help you grow your firm. And if you have any questions or anything, you can reach out to me via my bio on my YouTube page.